I don't talk much about trucking history in the western states enough, so today it's all about Nevada. Usually, when one thinks about that state, the first thing that comes to mind might be Las Vegas, but other Nevada cities played an important role as well, like Elko, Nevada, for example. In late 1956, Pacific Intermountain Express opened a new terminal there at 2000 Idaho Street on US Highway 40 at the eastern limits of the city. At 40 by 57 feet, it had a 5-door loading dock and an office of 20 by 40 feet. On a 2-acre lot of 261 by 312 feet, the Elko terminal could be later extended another 72 feet to meet future needs. The new facility replaced a previously rented terminal at 138 West Main Street. The West Main Street location was a busy one, with an average of 40 trucks in and out every 24 hours. PIE and Elko through the years had a rich trucking history that started in 1941 when PIE first rolled into the city. In the November 1953 issue of the company magazine, it stated that after the outbreak of the Korean conflict, the Bay Area of San Francisco, California was considered a critical defense area. PIE officials determined that Elko, Nevada was a good safe distance from a possible air attack by sea. Officials of PIE announced that microfilm copies of important records were being shipped from headquarters in Oakland, California. The microfilm was transported to Elko and placed in a local bank safe deposit box. Should an attack destroy the original papers in Oakland, a new set of books could be reconstructed from the microfilm copies that were stored in Elko. PIE stationed drivers in Elko from 1941 until the late 1950s, when the company changed to sleeper cabs and began running a team operation. That all changed in 1979 when PIE changed its operations to the way it was before and based drivers in Elko again. The change meant 21 PIE drivers being located permanently in Elko. Under the new system, Elko drivers would drive PIE trucks in a round-trip loop to Salt Lake City, Utah and back, taking about 9 hours of driving time. Drivers based in Sacramento, California would make the 9-hour trip to Elko, then lay over for 8 hours before returning to their home base. The new operation also had drivers based in Salt Lake City and Oakland, California to make a layover and turn around at Winnemucca, Nevada, where PIE had another terminal. The turnaround facility in Winnemucca started in November 1969. When started in 1979, an average of 15 trucks a day were relayed through Elko, with the driver change being made at Elko Truck Service, which held a service agreement with PIE to perform any necessary repair work on the trucks. Elko wasn't the only trucking city in Nevada. Sparks was important also, as well as Reno. Let's take a look at trucking in Sparks in 1964. The city was immediately adjacent to the eastern city limits of Reno. During the previous 5 years, 36 building permits had been issued in Sparks for major industrial construction, of which 29 were warehouses. In fact, to give you an idea of how big trucking was needed, just 2 years previously, the largest warehouse in the state of Nevada was opened in Sparks. It was a 55,000 square foot carpet warehouse for Bigelow Sanford Incorporated. Other large distribution warehouses in the Reno and Sparks area were for Wolverine Shoes, General Electric, Campbell Soup, and Pitney Bowes, just to name a couple of them. In 1964, there were 14 motor freight carriers in the two cities. They were Garrett Freight Lines, Interstate Motor Lines, or as a lot of people would remember, IML, PIE, Consolidated Freightways, ONC Motor Freight System, McLeod Trucking Service, Ringsby Truck Lines, Wells Cargo, Western Truck Lines, Carson Valley Lines, Nevada Truck Lines, Nevada Trucking Service, Converse Trucking Service, and Pacific Motor Trucking Company. Two more things about Pacific Intermountain Express, but not necessarily about their operations in Nevada. PIE was close to becoming a coast-to-coast carrier as early as 1950. On May 29, 1950, an Interstate Commerce Commission examiner actually recommended that the company be permitted to establish a coast-to-coast operation. The plan was for PIE to purchase the operating rights and properties of Keishan Freight Lines, which had more than 15,000 miles of routes from Chicago to Boston and Washington, D.C. At the time, PIE had 10,000 miles of routes between San Francisco and Los Angeles to Chicago and St. Louis. Keishan had been going through a bankruptcy reorganization, and the PIE-Keishan merger was even approved by the bankruptcy court. However, final say-so from the ICC meant the deal was dead and not approved. PIE would eventually become a coast-to-coast carrier, but that would come in the late 1960s when they acquired All States Freight. The other thing I wanted to mention about PIE also involves All State Freight. Sometime in the history of All States Freight, they bought a Coca-Cola bottling company in Battle Creek, Michigan, possibly as an investment to diversify. They still owned it when PIE merged with All States. Nothing in my research turned up when the Coca-Cola plant was sold or who it was sold to. And it wasn't too unusual for a trucking company to diversify like that. There was a Midwestern carrier based in Missouri that owned a chain of dry cleaners.